Hey guys, my name is Relyks from C9 VALORANT, and I'm here to teach you guys how to play Omen on Bind.
Pitiful. Pitiful.
Oh my god! You were a mistake!
One enemy remaining.
No charges. What's another death?
Hey,
Alrighty. Is diffused.
So, Omen is a controller, similar to Brimstone and Viper. I like playing him in comps typically with a Brimstone because it allows you to have two smoke characters, and Omen's smokes are his signature ability, so they regenerate over time. So with Brimstone and Omen, you have at least 5 smokes, like just throughout the round to be able to take control of parts of the map and whatnot. I think Omen can actually kind of replace Brimstone in the sense that you don't necessarily need 2 smoke characters and you can just use Omen for his smokes, but if you play a comp like that, then you need to be more careful of how you use your smokes because it takes 35 seconds to regenerate one as Omen, and so if your team needs it later in the round, you can't just be wasting them early on. Prior to a recent patch that buffed Omen, I actually thought that his skill set was a little weak compared to some of the other agents. He still had his place, but he just wasn't as strong. But recently, they buffed his E, where the travel time is a lot faster, and it's actually the longest distance smoke in the game. So compared to Brimstone, he's able to smoke farther than with Brimstone's iPad, which allows him to support teammates at another site or on the other side of the map while being on the other side. So that is like a strength that he would have with compared to Brimstone. With Brimstone, if you were at A, for instance, you can't smoke anything at B. The closest thing you could smoke if you were in this corner is something like this. So you can't really help your teammate. With Omen, rather, you can just smoke across the map. So before, Omen's smoke was simply like this, and you just had to look at the mini-map and look for the little circle indicator to see where it was going. But they added this like shadow world thing, which really helps you visualize how the smoke is going to bloom, and you can control how high or low it goes. So you can actually intentionally throw smokes sort of into the ground, and then you can like use them as one ways. Like you can assume like if an enemy's gonna try to peek over a low smoke or something. The other buff that they gave him was to his Paranoia, which I actually think made him a lot more viable. This is basically Omen's flash. It nearsights people similar to like Reyna's eye. And before, this animation was way larger than the actual radius, so it was really hard to hit. It was kind of a clunky ability, and they've sort of remedied everything with that. You now have to equip it, you pull it out, and then you can look at the mini-map and it shows you the actual radius of what it's going to cover, which makes it a lot easier to line up things through walls. And I think with the buff to his Paranoia and his smoke, he can kind of play like a mix between a controller and a duelist. He doesn't have, you know, the straight up run and gun initiation abilities like someone Phoenix or, you know, Reyna, but he can control part of the site with his smokes, and then he can initiate with his Paranoia and send it forward and then peek, you know, an angle with it. And it travels much faster now, so it's much harder to dodge. Now, while Omen has a lot of strengths, I do think that he has some weaknesses. Omen is good at controlling a part of the map by himself, but without, like, once he uses his, like, abilities, like if he uses his smokes and uses a Paranoia to clear, like, an angle, he's kind of no longer that useful until his smokes come back up. But if you pair him with somebody like a Breach, where Omen can be throwing out smokes and then he can be getting flashed in with the Breach, he's really strong. Omen's teleport is a pretty unique ability. It's very audible to enemies. That's the only issue, is that like if you TP, they could hear it, so they know that you've gone somewhere, but it does allow you to do some tricks that other people can't do. For instance, if you're long B on Bind, all you need to do is you just want to start running towards the teleporter and jump in as you click the teleport ability. So you need to have your, what is this called? Shrouded Step, I think, yeah. You need to have it out and ready to click, and then you just run backwards, jump, and click it. So I took the TP from long B all the way to Showers, but I remain long B. And you can actually do the same thing at short A, and in clutch situations, it's a pretty good way to fake out your opponents. For instance, if you're on attack as Omen, and your team has hit the site and trades have gone down, and you know you're in a 1v2, you can do something like this. And they'll hear you TP, and they might think that you're going to be with the spike. and you'd just be sitting here, and a lot of the time you'll catch someone sprinting around the corner thinking that you've already gone to the other site and you're still here. A good way that you can sort of use Omen's abilities in combination is you can use your teleport, even though it's audible to the enemy, you can use it to get past angles without people being certain or not. So for instance, if I was long B and I wanted to smoke, let's just say the left and right side of site, so now I would be covered from all of sight, but elbow is still open, and if there was a player playing here, I would have to contest them. But when you're playing Omen, you can do smokes like this, and then you could just TP into the corner of sight, you know, TPing into your smoke. Even if I just TP'd here, like, it still cuts off the angle. And you can kind of make aggressive plays and get past angles that you wouldn't be normally able to get past even without smokes. Even doing something like smoking both sides of sight, and if you think there's a guy playing elbow, you could just TP from long up here, maybe not so far forward, you want to TP back, and then you could clear this from an angle that the guy may not be expecting if he's just sitting down here holding, you know. Another trick that you can do with Omen, that they've changed his ultimate. Before, you could not cancel his ultimate. So Omen's ultimate allows him to teleport anywhere on the map. And before, once you clicked your spot to teleport, you were stuck there, and you were either hoping no one found you, or if someone was just looking at you, a lot of the time you might die. But now that they changed it so you can cancel it, you can use his ultimate to scout out sites. So let's say that we were hitting B as a team, and we weren't sure like where the enemies were playing. I could teleport onto the top of the site here, and I could look around, and then I could cancel the teleport. So you can use it to scout, like, you know, obviously teleporting into the middle of a site when the enemies are still playing there, you're probably just going to die. So rather than fully committing with his ult, you can use it, find the enemies. You know, let's say that I teleported on top and I found a guy backsited in the cubby. I make these callouts, I cancel my teleport, and now we're hitting the site and we know exactly like where the two enemies would be. I think Omen is a pretty versatile agent when it comes to defaulting on maps. He's really able to go kind of wherever he wants to help take map control. Even doing stuff solo, I think he's one of the better agents to solo sort of lurk up spots and take control. So if I was defaulting long B or something like this, I would probably throw a smoke out, something like this early. The reason being, there could be a player here posted with an operator, you know, you never know, like there could be someone here like just holding, and it's better I think to use your smokes and you save your paranoia. So I would do something like this, and then you could walk up, you know, you could clear the corner, and then most of the time, as a rule of thumb, you don't really want to walk into Omen smokes late. Even if you're like the Omen, it doesn't really matter, because if someone is inside the smoke, unlike all the other smokes in the game, Brimstone smokes, Jet smokes, Vipers like Smoke Cloud, Omen smokes are hollow, which allows you to really make a lot of plays with them. But even on attack, if I was to throw this and then I'm walking up long B, if I was a defender here, I would just get inside the smoke. I would just sit here like this. So if you came walking into the Omen smoke late, you're probably just gonna die. The only time that I go into my own Omen smokes most of the time is if I'm able to throw it and get into it and hold the inside of the smoke early, because it's usually just too risky otherwise. But I would throw this smoke, probably get some control, and then, you know, I would probably peek and clear an angle. Now, if I've peeked and I clear all of this, if I clear this side of the site, I would probably get ready to paranoia this side and take a peek, because if they're not holding here, they're probably here or backhaul. So then you could do something like this, and paranoia goes a pretty long way. As you can see, it covers the entire corner of the site, and it travels so fast you can kind of swing with it. So if I threw this and swing with my gun as soon as I can, you know, it's like hitting people that are holding the angle. Another thing that Omen is really good for is you can let Omen solo fake a site. So if I default long B, I use one smoke, and then I clear all this out, and let's say my team is grouping A. I would just be sitting here patiently waiting. Now when they say they're ready, I probably have both my smokes up. So literally, you could smoke something like backhaul, and I could smoke something like, you know, you want to choose a side of sight, so maybe something like this. And with both smokes, and if I have my paranoia still, I can throw it here, and I've probably killed all the info that they have. The guy here has been nearsighted. If they're backhaul or in sight, they're smoked off, and they're not really certain how many people are hitting the site. So Omen is, I think, a really good character to lurk and get into positions, and also because if he has his ult, he's able to lurk on a site. Let's say I'm the only one here and my team's at A. I can apply a lot of pressure here, and then if my team needs me and if I have my ult up, I could just ult and TP to the other side of the map, and I can be here for the actual exit, which I think makes Omen a pretty good agent to fake, because he's able to just get to the other side of the map if his team needs him. Whereas other agents, if they're faking and your whole team, you know, dies trying to take the site, you're just in like a 1v4 or 1v3 on the other side of the map, and it's kind of the round's over at that point. Like I said before, I think Omen is pretty capable of defaulting kind of any spot on any map if you know what to do. Normally if you default towards showers, you're with someone here and you peek and you make sure that the defense isn't like swinging wide or something, and a lot of teams don't contest this orb just because it's kind of difficult. And then once you take showers, Omen can do things like I was talking about, where he can smoke and like teleport past angles. As an Omen player, you could do 2 smokes like this if you wanted, obviously wait for the smoke to bloom to peak, and then you could just like TP to the corner of sight. Or coming up short A, you could do similar things. And if you really want to try to like trick your opponents, then you wouldn't throw these 2 smokes up, because they would expect someone to be in the corner. So instead, you would just have a teammate with you. You would choose to smoke like one area, and then maybe you would just peek this, and then you could like, if you're obviously you want a teammate holding, but then if you do this, it's just an easy way to get past angles that like someone over here, maybe they're U-Haul holding the cross, and if you just TP across, like this person's not making any comms, they didn't see anyone cross to the site, and you're now in an advantageous position that the enemy like may not expect you to be in. You can do the same type of thing at short A here as Omen defaulting. So here's the issue: if I'm a defense U-Haul player and an Omen throws a smoke like this, I'm walking into it, and I've died as Omen multiple times trying to TP into smokes where an enemy was already inside it. So I would actually throw the smoke like this, where you leave a gap in the corner. So you now cut off the angle of U-Haul, and now you can come here and you can TP next to your smoke rather than inside of it. So if there's someone that moved into the smoke, they hear the TP, but they aren't sure where you've gone. And then from here, you can decide what you want to do. You could Paranoia like the doorway and then run into the smoke and fight. You could just sit here and wait for your smoke to fade, and there might just be a guy sitting in the corner, and there's just a lot of, honestly, a lot of different things you can do as Omen. I just think that to really utilize Omen well, you have to have really good knowledge of the maps that you're playing on, and you have to know all the different like angles and spots that you can effectively smoke. Because Omen's smoke is as wide as Brimstone's, and it lasts just about as long now since they buffed it. So it's a pretty powerful tool on both offense and defense. So I think that Omen's ult is a really powerful ability if used at the correct times, and you kind of need to be selective with how you use it. So the enemy can hear your ult. For instance, if I was to ult, let's say, into Garden, and there was someone hiding in this corner, they will hear your shadow forming, and then they could just peek out and cancel the ult, or they could hold the shadow and like wait for you to form and try to take you out. When you use Omen's ult, you need to be aware and thinking of where the enemies are on the map. On a map like Bind, on most maps, you don't really ever want to use Omen's ult right away at the beginning of the round. You sort of want to let people spread out on the map and fall into their default before you decide to ult. So if I'm playing Omen and I'm defaulting towards B, and I peek long B and I take a fight with the guy Garden, now I know that there's a guy playing Garden and probably another guy somewhere, maybe in hookah, maybe on site watching hookah, but it means that all of elbow and back hall's clear. So once you get info like that, you can teleport into a situation like this where now you're in a really good spot to pinch the site. If you get here and your team is ready to hit B, you're basically like a free flank. The other thing about Omen ults is that it basically makes the other team have to be aware of their flank. Something you can do a lot of the time as Omen is literally you can ult but not teleport anywhere. Like for instance, if I was long B and my team is getting ready to hit B, I could ult and just teleport right on top of myself. And most of the time, the other team's initial reaction is going to be to do a 180 and start clearing their flank. If I did this and they were playing B site, if there was a guy here and I'm this player and I hear the Omen TP, I'm probably just immediately coming back and clearing like all of this. And this gives you space now where your team can just come up and hit the site, and the defense is out of position because they're worried about the Omen flank. Other than that, it's just very situational uses. Like I said earlier, you can use it to scout sites now that you're able to cancel it. If we're not sure where they are A, let's say that we're getting ready to hit the A site, but we don't have someone like a Sova, so we can't really get info with a dart. You can just TP up onto this heaven ledge here, look around. Oh, there's a guy in that corner, and there's a guy behind the box, and then cancel your ult. The ability to cancel your ult really gives you a lot of freedom. If you don't see anyone around or you don't see anyone looking at you, you can just let the teleport continue. But a lot of the time, if you're using it to scout, someone will just be like waiting. They might even just shoot you to cancel the ult, or they're waiting for you to form, so you can just cancel it to not give them a free kill. But yeah, Omen is basically an agent that I think when used correctly with his smokes, his teleport, his paranoia, and his ult, he just basically has to he makes enemies have to work for information. They can't just rely on like, oh yeah, I didn't see anybody cross that angle, so no one can be there. Because with his skill set, he can just get across an angle you're holding and be flanking. And unless you're just aware and paying attention, he can really make your life hard. Now on defense, where I play as Omen would probably depend on the team comp, and what you'll find a lot of teams nowadays are actually doing is they switch up where people play throughout the game, because if you're on offense and you're playing against Omen and someone else on B, after a while you start getting used to how they play, and so if you switch Omen to A and switch one of the agents from A to B, it basically keeps the other team guessing and like not sure of how to take this site or how to default. But I traditionally like playing Omen at B, and the reason is because you can utilize this teleporter a lot more. So early on in the round, contesting alt orbs is really important. So, you know, I would probably throw an Omen smoke, something like this. As a note, you don't want to throw the smoke too deep, because if you throw the smoke too deep, people can get on top of the fountain like this and actually see over it. So I'll show you an example really quickly. If you were to throw your Omen smoke, let's say like all the way down here at the bottom, it's more of an issue with brimstone smokes because you can't control how like high or low they drop. You just select a spot and drop it. But even something like this, if you're crossing from the right to the TP, someone that's just on the fountain has a chance to kill you. So if you're gonna smoke it in the middle, on the higher elevated ground. So I would probably come over here and I would do something like this. I would maybe wait to see if they spam the smoke, and then I would come get the orb. Now the reason I like playing B as Omen is because I can do the fake TP on offense, and if the other team is defaulting outside showers, let's say, and they hear the TP, they just have to be aware of it. And the thing is, Omen is you can fake TP a couple times early in the game, and they're gonna just be like, oh, it's just Omen, there's no one there. Like, oh, it's Omen, there's no one in the TP. And then eventually you can just actually take the TP. And you're gonna catch people off guard, because if you've just been doing it and there's never been anyone in the teleporter, you're conditioning the other team to just expect it to be a fake, and then you can actually teleport and flank them. Another thing you can do with Omen is you can ult into the teleporter. People know when an actual person teleports, because a person teleporting makes different sounds than items, for instance. If I throw a pistol, it makes a different sound than if I physically went through. So as Omen, you can teleport. Let's say that I'm long B, for instance, and my team, like, there's just no one here, and then my teammate on B site calls like 3 or 4 hookah. If I wanted to, I could teleport into the hookah TP. They don't hear the actual teleport sound, and then you could like flank them kind of unexpectedly. And it's something that no other agent can do. Like, you know, no one can just teleport inside the doorway like that. Another example is like if I wasn't defaulting long B on defense, but I was defaulting hookah, at the beginning of the round, I can TP just across to get behind the box, and then a teammate in hookah and me can now double peek from the left and right. My best advice for using the Omen TP is that you do it in conjunction with another ability that's making noise. For instance, if I have a Raze playing hookah and my Raze throws her boombot out and I TP, the other team probably won't hear it because the boombot is basically masking the sound. But good teams, like if they're sitting here holding and you TP, they'll hear you TP, and there's really only like one place you could be going, so they'll probably expect you. So you just need to be kind of conscious of when you use the ability, because sometimes it can be really telegraphed, and if they hear you TP from a position that there's only like one place you could go, they might just run up on you and kill you before you finish. Most rounds I would probably start aggressive towards long. Like I said, I would smoke the middle, and you know, I would wait for this to bloom. I would probably get the orb, and I would stay here early on. But the thing is if Omen gets caught out, for instance, if I stayed here and the 3 people walked up in the smoke and they came through, unless I just win the gun battles, I don't really have any like abilities to stay alive. You know, I can't dash away like Jett, or I can't like get a kill and go invisible or invulnerable like Reyna and fall back. So I would probably play something like long B aggressive early. The other issue is that situations like this, he can Paranoia almost all of long B, but keep in mind that near sights are different than flashes. Flashes like Phoenix and flashes like Breaches will blind you. They just blind you like a normal flash from, let's say, Counter-Strike. But near sights do what they say, they near sight you. So if I was to near sight someone on the wall here and then I swung, you can still see a certain radius inside the near sight. You know, you can see like maybe 2 or 3 feet in front of you. So you need to make sure that when you're using Omen's Paranoia and you're peeking, that they're like a substantial distance away. Like if I was backside and they were running up on me and I nearsighted them and they were right here, they would just be able to see me. Even though they would be nearsighted, I'm close enough for them to see me. So I would probably start long B, get the orb, and then I would probably fall back to sight. Because playing a position like this, number one, you can just re-smoke stuff. Oh, you know, your teammate asks for a smoke hookah, you can throw hookah. And your Paranoia pretty much covers both entrances onto site. So if your teammate calls they're flooding out long B, you can cover the entire doorway pretty much and then peek with it. And you're far enough away that if they get nearsighted, unless they hit a lucky shot or if they were already holding the angle and they just start, you know, spraying blindly, you're gonna get kills. Whereas it's just hard to play solo long B even as Omen, just because yes, I can like Paranoia on timing or like whenever I want to, but if people are close enough or if they're spread out, it's gonna be a lot harder for me to multi-frag. Whereas when I'm on site, I can stay alive, you know. I could Paranoia long B when they're coming, maybe peek and get a kill, and then I could throw a close smoke on the site and, you know, I could go play around in my smoke. Omen is honestly really kind of a nuisance to deal with on defense because of how he can play aggressively with his smoke. Since they're hollow, you'll see a lot of Omen players do things like throw smokes down, and then they might come out the smoke and get a kill and then run away, and, you know, it's just... teams really have to be aware every time there's an Omen smoke up. If he could be in it, if he's about to swing through, you know, how he's playing around it. Learning how to play around the hollow Omen smokes, I think, is like one of the most important skills as an Omen player. If I was playing A as Omen, it doesn't really matter where you play, it just sort of depends. For instance, if we have a Brimstone at A, he might smoke, you know, deep short A early, and then I wouldn't need to smoke it. So instead, maybe me and my other teammate, we try to go get the shower orb. So I would throw a smoke like this, you know, me and my teammate would come into showers, and then we would come over here to try to get the orb. The advantage of having Omen at one site is if you had a Brimstone on your team also, he would probably be at the other site. Because Omen, like I said, is able to smoke across the map. So let's say that I was holding short A, this was my job. So I would probably throw, you know, an early smoke like this. I'd be waiting, and I'd be doing, you know, just basically holding the smoke. There's not really much for you to do. And my teammates wanted to smoke at hookah or at long. I can smoke literally any part of the site they want. I could smoke in garden, I could smoke deep long B. If they're playing in hookah, I could smoke the doorway. If they're on site, I could smoke the window. And this new, like, view really makes it easy. Imagine if I was smoking like this. All I have to rely on is looking at the radar and hoping that my smoke is in the right area, and it's kind of clunky. But now with this, I can see exactly how the smoke is going to land, and it just makes it a lot easier to throw like smokes that have no gaps and whatnot. Also, playing short A, like I said with playing long B, how you can do the fake teleport behind them showers, this is also a really good spot because I can do the same thing. I can be playing short A, and I can come do this fake teleport, and if the team is taking hookah, you know, almost every team has to be aware, because it could not be Omen. It could have been another A player that took the teleport. You don't know if someone's in here on the other side of the map. And it's just a good way to delay. It just stalls them. They have to worry about it. They're going to be spamming the door thinking that someone could be in there. And it just basically is a good way to buy time for your team. Something I like to do a lot as Omen is, let's say that we get info that they're probably hitting B. Instead of flanking, I'll just fake TP, and then I'll just go spawn with my teammates. So we're going to be retaking from spawn, and the other team in their mind thinks that there's someone in the TP waiting to flank late. So the guys at hookah are going to have their attention drawn away from helping their team on the B side and watching for the hookah flank. Omen can also do a lot of stuff at short A that agents like Jet and Raze can do. I think they're some of the only ones where you can get onto angles and get on top of things. And change up how you hold a site. You know, you don't really just want to be holding short A from hookah every round. Eventually they're just going to smoke or molly you or do something to make you not useful. So you can play up there, you can play up on the truck. This is a really good way to, a good angle to hold, because you can get a kill and then drop off and stay alive. You know, you can even get on top of pocket, and you can play like a contact setup with another teammate where like you have one beneath you and you take a contact first. You know, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with Omen. Since they buffed his Paranoia, it's actually a really good thing to use to support teammates. So if you have a teammate maybe like at these boxes and he's holding short A, and all you do as Omen is just sit here like this with your Paranoia out, because if you look at the minimap, it covers the entire like radius of the walking up short A. And as soon as your teammate sees them like coming up short at the box, as soon as he makes contact, you know, let me take the Paranoia away, right here in this little choke point, I can't, right there, then you just do this, and then you can have another teammate that's like ready to swing. And it's just there's a lot of different ways and areas you can do it where like, and I've noticed a lot of good teams have started doing it. Even in the recent tournament we played, their Omens often were not taking contact. The Omen was not the guy holding an angle. Someone else was holding the angle. Maybe this would be a better spot actually. And as soon as someone made contact, the Omen would Paranoia and swing. And it's just, there's different setups and cool things that you can do playing with your teammates. And I think that the reason I like Omen is because you can be aggressive, or you can be passive, and you have like a skill set which allows you to be successful in either style of play. In summary, how I play Omen on defense is pretty dependent on my team, but you just need to have good map awareness. You can do almost anything you want as Omen, and you can play any spot on most maps as defense, but you just need to be aware of what your team lacks. If you're the only smoke character on your team, for instance, and you're playing the opposite side of the map, then you probably need to not be using your smokes as much here and maybe using them for the weaker site. You know, it's very common on Bind, for instance, you either play 3B and 2A or vice versa. So as Omen, you probably would want to be using your smokes at the side with less people to support them and help them have more control. The only other thing I would say on defense is you can make some cheeky aggressive plays with Omen, but a lot of the time you don't want to do this by yourself. So if I did the same smoke I talked about, let's say, and I had a teammate with me, Showers, and we got the orb, if we wanted to, we could aggress Showers, and we could both get in the smoke, and one person could get ready to swing on that side, and you swing here, and you guys can both just push through. And this is like a really good way to get early information for your team. So for instance, if we push Showers early in the round, and this is entirely clear, we can start over-rotating to B. And you can do the same thing at long B. Throw your smoke long B, and just choose a timing and walk through the smoke, and if you clear long B, unless they're all hookah, it's probably going to be A. And I think that because his smokes are hollow, you can push through them more confidently than with someone like Brimstone. So you can get information for your team and be able to make early rotations on the defense. Now on attack, how should you typically play Omen as a summary? You want to play Omen as a controller, and so you want to help your team take map control and basically reduce the amount of information that the team has. You have 2 smokes, and you're the only agent in the game whose smokes regenerates. So don't be afraid to throw 2 out early, so they both regenerate over time. So a lot of the time as Omen on attack, I might throw 1 smoke like this, and I might throw another smoke like this. And now I'll solo take long B while my team takes hookah. And of course you want to let them know the hookah window is smoked. And just doing this alone, you guys can push the defense entirely back onto the B site, and you've removed all the information they have, and now you can do something like regroup towards A. The only difference is if you're playing Omen on attack and you're basically by yourself on the side of the map, then you need to play a little bit more careful. You can still play aggressive, but you need to understand that almost any smoke you throw for early control, they can be in it, because it's going to be way farther away from you. And so they can be, like for instance, something that happens a lot is a Phoenix will sit in your smoke if there's a Phoenix on the other team, and on timing he'll just flash through your smoke. So you're sneaking up along B like this, and they're just in it ready to, you know, ready to peek you on timing. So you just need to be conscious and aware. I think one of the biggest things is knowing what agents the other team has, because if they don't have any flash characters, then you could be a lot more confident just walking up and being aggressive. You know, it really is about playing to your team's strength and to the other team's weaknesses. If a team is running Breach and Phoenix, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to solo walk up along B, because all it takes is a Breach flashing high for a guy to swing, or even just the Phoenix, and you're probably going to die without getting a kill. So really, on both attack and defense, be aware of what agents your team has and the other team's agents and what the capabilities are. And you basically want to think about how you're going to play the map to take advantage of their weaknesses. If they're playing a site, and let's say their B site is Phoenix and Jet, you should be hitting B. They have 2 duelists holding the site. They don't have someone like a Sage or a Brimstone or a Cypher, right? They don't have like Sentinels or controllers. So you want to be abusing that site, because it's going to be hard for a Phoenix and a Jet to hold an execute, whereas a Sage and a Cypher are going to have a much easier time holding off an execute. So you just want to be constantly thinking about what you can do to take advantage of the other team's like weaknesses basically, and gaps in their defense. Because as Omen, you can make a lot of plays for your team and you can get a lot of information, but it's just important to note that your life is usually more valuable than trying to get a kill. If I get information that there's 3 people playing B, that's enough. I don't necessarily want to go take a 1-for-1 fight here, because if I die, then they're in a 5v4 and they saw one guy peek long B, and they're probably just going to over-rotate. So getting information as Omen and staying alive is a big thing. Because something else you can do is, like, let's say I peek and I fight a guy here, and now I'm stuck here. If I don't have a smoke up, I can just teleport out. You know, people make comms all the time, right? Let's say the defense sees a guy in this left corner. They're going to be like, there's a guy stuck there, he's stuck in the corner. And unless you're playing someone like Omen where I can smoke myself out, or I can just TP away, it's just a really good way to keep people unsure of where you are. If I'm in that corner and I TP away, you can sit here and wait, and someone might come up to clear you, and you can get a free kill because they just have no idea that you've already left. So I hope you guys learned a thing or two, or maybe got some insight on how to play Omen. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment and let us know who you'd like to learn about next.